All right, everybody, welcome back to Money in the Tank. Sorry, we've been a bit absent lately. Both of us have had a lot on. Jolly, how you been?
We try to keep the listeners up to date and keep everything consistent, but sometimes it doesn't eventuate for us, Arnie. So apologies to the listeners about being a little bit delayed and a bit busy the last couple of weeks. Had a bit on the go, and also lockdown thrown in the mix as well, which also creates a bit of a spanner and throws a spanner in the works.
Lockdown 6.0, but the D's are flying. We're back on top. We're guaranteed top four now, so that's handy.
We're rolling, mate. So first position at the moment, playing Port, which would be nice, but let's see how we go with that, mate. And hopefully we keep on rolling along. And we've got to introduce ourselves. So, Arnie, who are you, mate?
I'm Arnie, tax professional.
Joel Seach here, principal advisor, Harpel FG.
Everyone knows us.
And welcome back. Episode 21? 20.
Oh, mate, I have no idea. Let me just quickly double check.
We're somewhere in there, into the 20s now.
Mate, we're in shambles. Is it number 20?
Something like that. Anyway, listen.
Yeah, this is number 20. This is episode 20. Yeah. Look at you.
Tank 20. So, welcome back, guys. And, today we've got some cool stuff to get through because it has been a bit of action-packed and a bit of stuff going on in the finance world the last week or so. So, some of the things that we'll touch on today, the RBA met and had a cash rate decision, and then which is the Reserve Bank of Australia. Square put an offer in for Afterpay as well, which is pretty big news in the finance world. And Arnie, you mentioned Tesla as well.
Yeah, so Tesla, I think the 19th of August this month, they're going to have their AI Day, so Artificial Intelligence Day, and there was a leaked image. You can go search it online on Twitter or just Google, actually. And they released this robotics chip, an image of it, I should say, and it's caused a bit of a stir. So the stock is moving because of it, I think, and we'll see what happens when the actual day comes around. But, we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we've got some good 50-50s and listener Q&As as well, and Rifkin's rules, and Joel bought some Bitcoin on Binance for the listeners as well, just to jump in the game and track how it goes for our listeners so you can ride the roller coaster with us as well. Thought that'd be a fun thing to do.
This is huge because now that you've got a position, we need to learn more about it. It's almost forcing us to learn about it.
Exactly. So I thought I'll do it for the listeners and put some skin in the game. So I'll touch on that as well and how we went about that too. But always general in nature, guys. So any chats we have on the podcast today is always general in nature. So seek professional guidance for your own personal situation whenever you're making decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do we want to start with today, Hans? Rifkin rules. Let's
here's with the Rifkin.
Here we go. I've got Rifkin here. So let's have a bit of a peek at old mate Riv. I've done that page, so let's go to the next one. I've done a couple here. I started smoking cigars because I like them. Now they are my trademark, and I have to smoke them whether I want to or not. So there you go. The big cigar smoker.
He understood the branding. He'd understood the branding element of the cigars. So
that was his trademark. So, Arndog. So we're getting stuck in today. So I guess in terms of last week, mainly around the financial sort of circles, we had the RBA, Reserve Bank of Australia. So they held the rate at 10 basis points. So I guess some of the overview from that last week was, I guess, about what people's expectations were, what they might do in relation to the purchasing of bonds at the moment. So you might have heard from previous podcasts that purchasing program of 5 million per week at the moment.
Australia was purchasing 5 billion.
5 billion per.
It was 5 billion a week, and it's tapering down to 4 billion a week.
4 billion per week. So they still are planning on tapering that. So that was sort of the big thing. People wanted to see whether or not they were going to taper or not. So they're still planning on doing it. And the governor of the RBA mentioned that he's comfortable and he feels that the economies will pick back up after these lockdowns that we've had along the east coast of Australia. So he feels he's sort of looking at Melbourne, I guess, as a case in point from our lockdown, and seeing what happened with us in terms of coming back out of that downturn or that lockdown we had, and how the GDP picked right back up again. And I guess the other thing people were mindful of or wanted to see was thoughts about inflation and the inflationary spike. So he's expecting that as well to settle. He feels like that's going to be the key word is the transitory inflation, where things are the price of inputs and the price of things are going up, it feels like that'll settle down as well over time too, as supply chains start to open up again.
Yeah, there was quotes from the governor, which I was checking out last week, because this actually happened last week, and he was saying that he was saying that housing markets across the country, including all major markets, cities, have been strengthening, and there's been increased borrowing by investors as well. So interesting to see that even in this environment, and all the factors that you mentioned, like inflation playing a part in the rising costs, we've still got this really strong demand. So we've got rising house prices, interest rates staying where they are at the very bottom of the barrel, and I think there was also mentioned that the RBA has said that they're still a fair way away from an interest rate hike. They need to fix the inflation first and get it within the target 2 to 3% range before they can even consider raising the interest rates back up. And I think that's also going to be part and parcel of why they're tapering as well, slowly.
Yeah. And that, I think, speaks to that interest rate rise by 2024, which they've always sort of put a bit of a loose time frame on as to what they think. And it leads in well as well to our listener question today, which we'll cover off later in the podcast as well, regarding fixed and variable rates also. I guess on top of that, Arnie, you mentioned the housing market. So just a bit of an update for, I guess, the listeners in terms of the market. Even in lockdowns, Melbourne is an example, Victoria, lower supply on auctions, but the percentages are still really high. I think it was a 90% clearance rate. So, people are feeling still like they've obviously got some job security, or they've got low interest rates, or these things will pass, and I guess employment and income will pick back up again. So there's all those things that I think are stimulating the housing market. A lot of people, as we mentioned, maybe upsizers or first home buyers as well as downsizers. So there's a lot of stimulation happening, and also just that lack of supply thing is still lingering there. I think the supply, the demand is outstripping the supply, which is then pushing forward that property market, and low interest rates is stimulating pretty much the whole of Australia. And that goes to the rest of the world too. There's a lot of property markets that have been quite strong the past 12 months from overseas also.
Hold on. I don't know if you noticed while you were mid-sentence, Jolly, but my schnauzer just found her way to my lap.
Oh, she did.
She did. She's used to it now. She's used to being part of the recording process. So
loves it. She'll have to be what do we call it?
She's the third member. Well, she's the mascot.
Mascot. That's right. The mascot of the pod. Exactly right.
Yeah. So you were mentioning before job reports out of the USA. Do you have data on what happened there?
Yeah, so last Friday's jobs report, so the market had a bit of a pickup on Friday, the Dow Jones, which is the American market. So the jobs report showed the US economy added 943,000 jobs in July, according to the Labor Department. But economists expected the economy to have added 845 last month, 845,000. So the unemployment rate actually dropped down below the estimate. So essentially that sort of helped, I guess, stimulate some of the share market over there. And what always happens is, you look at that 10-year Treasury bond rate, pushed out to 1.3, and that then starts to push stocks that will do better in a bounce-back economy and take away from stocks that don't do as well, potentially tech stocks and whatnot. So that's sort of what happened there in the labour market in the US.
Yeah, well, I've actually been chatting with a mate of mine online, and you can go check out his YouTube channel, a little plug for him if you want. His YouTube channel is called Priced in King, and he teaches people how to trade options and derivatives. But I was having a chat to him about the situation in America, because he is an American, and he was mentioning that at the moment there's a lot of speak from people who are connected to the Federal Reserve over there about how they're going to be doing tapering. It almost seems like they're priming the market for a very quick and a very fast taper, because their inflation numbers are not out of their control, but are being hard to rein in. So they're talking about tapering fast and raising interest rates after that. So that kind of ties in with their job numbers and their other economic indicators. But check him out.
Yeah, for sure. And the Square offer, Arnie. So were you across the Square offer to Afterpay last week, which is a big Australian tech stock?
I'm very interested in this, not because of Afterpay, but because I'm actually a shareholder in Square. So, and the share price did see a nice little jump up after the news announced that they were acquiring Afterpay.
The Square price and the Afterpay price, they both had a bump then, huh? So, yeah.
Yeah, they both had a bit of a jump up. I don't know what Afterpay did, but Square's was nice. And it was I think it was $29 billion that they acquired them for, all stock. So they're purchasing all stock transaction. And there was some criticism in the early parts of shortly after the transaction was announced, some people in the FinTwit world were sort of saying, why is Square bothering to acquire Afterpay for $29 billion when they could easily just make one themselves? But I think it sort of is discounting all of the relationships and all of the inroads that Afterpay already has, particularly in the Australian market as well. And it now gives Square an avenue into this market, plus all of the other regions which they've already made inroads in. So I love the deal. Have you got initial thoughts about, like, you and I are very skeptical of using the product Afterpay, but as a shareholder, I love it.
Yeah, I think I think Square probably has a very big presence worldwide and a lot of scale there. So I think them shifting or buying an Afterpay as an example is just another way of scaling their business into something that's ready-made, that they may not have to produce themselves or brand themselves, because maybe their brand recognition isn't as strong here as it is overseas.
Well, here it's really only recognised as a point of sale. Like, you got the terminal and you can tap, and people use Square. But over in America, the big product over there is more Cash App. So Cash App for them is something similar to like a Venmo or a PayPal, I guess, where you use it to transfer money between. Like, if you and I were out to dinner and I wanted to send you some money, I would have to do it through Cash App or Venmo. They don't have like bank transfers like we have access to here in Australia. Yeah. So that's a huge part of their business. And also, if you want to buy crypto, you can buy it on the Cash App app.
Yeah, I'd imagine you would, and then Afterpay as well, with it, as we've spoken about before, all their data they've probably captured and have there, that that resource is probably gold as well to Square too. So I think the purchase offering was about 37 cents. So 30 shareholders would receive 37.375 Square stock for each Afterpay share they own. So so see after share investors owning approximately 18% of the new company that would be listed. I think Square would have to list an Australian ASX version of the stock on the ASX.
That's right.
So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. But the Afterpay share price really shot up as well from that offer, and hasn't gone through yet, I don't believe. But I feel like it looks like it's going to be something that's mutually beneficial for both companies.
Yeah, I'll be keeping a close eye on it to see how they integrate it into their payments ecosystem, I guess. I think,
So we'll keep the listeners up to date with how that one transpires.
Let's get to the big news of the day, which is you've bought some crypto.
Yes, man. Yeah, I thought I'm going to do it for the team, do it for the tankers out there, and buy in. And I think I'm just having a look at because I bought it through Binance, but there's a couple of different apps out there. So BTC Markets was another big one that I looked at, and Amber as well is an online app that you can use also. So.
Coinbase,
I didn't look at Coinbase, but that's another big. There's some big ones out there, so you just sort of look at the bigger and more secure ones, I guess. But we're not promoting any as such, unless they want to come and sponsor the tankers. But it was more so just looking at the bigger ones out there, and mainly did it just for I guess a bit of an experiment, really, because I only did it with a couple $1,000, and wanted just to sort of give it a crack and have a try of it and just see how it all works. I love seeing how the tech works and how the purchasing process works, setting it all up, and then buying the two bigger ones with the BTC and Ethereum in terms of just buying in on a low, and then I'll probably drip feed a little bit of cash in there as just regular investment plan as I go, in terms of just buying when the dips come down, just a little bit each time, just a dollar cost average. And I guess do as I do in terms of the advice world, is try to minimise your risk that way and purchase in. It's only a small overall portion of the portfolio for me, but I thought a good way to give it a try and have a crack at it, and keep the listeners involved on the roller coaster that's crypto.
So why Binance? Did you was there a reason? We
Yeah,
went with
well, I've
that
done a
one.
bit of research, and it was probably one of the bigger ones out there, and they seem to be well structured, and I think maybe based in Australia, or they've got a licensing in Australia, so they've been around for a little while, and they're quite good quality. And BTC Markets was the other one, and Amber was an app one, but I think Binance sort of looked quite good, and I was pretty happy after reading a few things about them.
What are the fees like? What are the fees like on the buy and the sell side for Binance?
And they were pretty good.
Ones?
Yeah, they were pretty good. They were pretty good in terms of fees. So the transfers, the bank transfers in, I don't think cost anything. And I think you buy marks weren't as much. I think Amber was a bit more expensive. They were probably about 2% per purchase, but I think Binance was a lot lower than that. So so I was happy with that. And probably one of the main things, apart from doing for the tankers, was just to sort of see, like, diversify the portfolio a little bit, but also just to get some more understanding of how it all works from my end. And I just felt like, it's an interesting way to diversify yourself into an alternative asset class when there's a lot of money, printing going on in the fiat currency. So getting something, crypto based was a cool way to sort of diversify yourself away from that, possibly too. If money keeps on being pushed out into the economy and printed, does that start to then erode the purchasing power of that paper-based bill? So
it's an interesting thought process. I know that a lot of people have sort of been on that same train of thought as you. And interestingly, in the infrastructure bill in America that they're trying to get through at the moment, there's some crypto laws that may be passed. So in America in particular, I think they're looking at how they can tax, I don't know if it's the buy and the sell side, or I haven't really looked into it too heavily, but I need to now, for the tankers and for you. But they're talking about taxing it. So I wonder what that would do to the share price. But sorry, not the share price, the price of those cryptocurrencies, I should say. But I think at the moment it's sort of still been pumping. And there was talk as well about, from the Australian perspective, about what you just mentioned, the fact that inflation may be taking a hold. How can I preserve my wealth and my capital? People are looking to it as an alternative means of wealth preservation. So
it's shot back up again, Arndog. So I think my buy-in price wasn't too bad when I look back the last few weeks now.
You got it on the low, did you? Because I know it dipped a couple of weeks ago and then it shot back up like last couple of days.
Yeah, I think I got it in the low 50s. We're talking AU dollars. So low 50s AU, and then it's back up to sort of 62ish now. So
what about Ethereum?
Ethereum, I think I was in at the in the high threes. So she's up there now, Ethereum about 4.2. So so overall we're on a bit of a winner at the moment, on a bit of a profit, but it's only paper, folks. It's it's not a profit until you cash it in. But
guess what, Jolly? I got some news too.
What's up?
I also have some crypto now.
I know. Yeah, bought it as well, mate.
I actually didn't buy in. It's a really weird story, but I was in this internet chess tournament.
You've been mining, have you?
No, I was playing chess. I was in an internet chess tournament, and I didn't know there was a prize, but I came first. And I got some shitcoin, like 10 million shitcoin for the prize. This is a coin called YYC. I don't even know what it is. So I have to make a Binance account so I can get it transferred to
bit of a meme coin.
Yeah, I've got a meme coin. I'm going to be a meme coin millionaire. So
keep tracking it, mate. You never know.
For winning this chess tournament. So I'll keep you updated about my shit coin, and you keep us updated about the real coins.
We'll keep the listeners updated, and hopefully you can have a bit of fun along the journey with us. And only general in nature. We're not giving advice, but it's more so just something to do. And I thought it would be a bit of fun to get the tankers involved and let you know along the journey as to how we're traveling.
Maybe this will hook me in now. Maybe I'm in the crypto sphere. Anyway, I'll talk a little bit about Tesla's AI Day. So as I mentioned at the start of the show, August 19, and I don't know if you followed Tesla at all, there's been some talk of the Project Dojo. So if you listen to their investor calls every quarter, they have mentioned this before, and it's basically like a neural network training supercomputer. So when they were using like LiDAR for their self-driving, and now they're using purely vision-based system they've created themselves. And they've dropped, if you can go on YouTube and you can look at this, they've got people who are showing off the autonomous self-driving. And it's pretty impressive. But yeah, there was a bloke on Twitter who dropped this picture, and I don't know who the guy was. So he was someone important to do with in the AI space anyway. Like this is definitely not my wheelhouse, but he dropped this picture of this secret project they've been working on, and it's this chip, this AI chip, and it's a pretty impressive looking thing. And Elon Musk was asked about this on the last quarter's call, on the Q2 earnings call, and he basically said that long term, people will think of Tesla as a robotics company as much as they think of them as a car company or an energy company, which is the two segments they're in at the moment. And he was saying that he thinks long term, like in the long term for Tesla, people will want to use this technology that they're developing, and they will make it available, and that will be another stream of revenue for them where they can sell it off to people. So very
I guess some of the things you hear about, and we might have been mentioned on the pod before, Arnie, is where's Tesla going to be in 5-10 years? Is it going to look like a completely different business to what it is now? That you see, we don't see it as much in Australia because we haven't sort of pushed that electric car market as much, and I think that's got a bit to do with the government and how we haven't sort of, put our arms around that market yet. But you see in Europe, a lot of these big car manufacturers now and the electric vehicles they're pushing out, and, China as well. Is that going to potentially minimise that sort of first entrant that Tesla had into the market, and maybe they don't have the scale to compete with those big car manufacturers in the future, which potentially is why they're diversifying, and it's potentially more about what they have and the IP they have with their their electric engines and batteries and robotics, as you mentioned, that's going to be able to be their future. That they've got the IP behind all these things, and they end up selling those things to these manufacturers.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. Like, that's the biggest criticism from what people call Tesla Q, right? They say, how is Tesla going to compete when all the big auto manufacturers enter this market and just start dominating them because they've got all the assets?
It's inevitable. They'll come in.
Well, they're sort of already in. Like, if you look at America, like Ford and GM are getting in a big way. The Ford F-150 electric is a huge hit in America at the moment. And but I think Tesla's all along sort of said, like, they're not trying to monopolize the EV market. They know that their market share is going to come down as more entrants get in. It's more if they can still build and grow and take their own piece of that market share whilst building the energy business. But now hearing something like this is, I guess, you don't know how, you take it with a grain of salt, right? Like, this is what they want to do. This is what they're aspiring to achieve. But if they do pull it off and become a robotics company and start selling this out to people, along with giving access to their charger network to these other companies that might want to use it. So say that Ford wants to use the Tesla supercharging network and they license it out. So it's encouraging to hear that they're working on these other streams of revenue and innovating rather than stagnating. So
a company like that, you'd expect them to always be pushing the envelope and innovating, and who knows, a view could be that do they exit the car market in 5 or 10 years? Do they potentially sell that division off?
That's a huge call. I know Elon has said in the past that his whole vision, like his whole mission, is to get the humans on Earth to be a multiplanetary species. So all of his resources, all of his companies are geared towards that goal. So really, if you think about the way he's building it, he's got the Boring Company where they build tunnels, which is trying to save this planet, and Tesla's trying to save this planet, I guess, with decreasing our reliance on fossil fuel, but then with a view to get all the money and profits and pump that into SpaceX so that he can take us to Mars, basically, and leapfrog. So
yeah, and people are buying. When you buy a Tesla, you're buying a brand and a lifestyle and something you feel like you get behind, which is environmentally conscious type vehicles. So that's another part of the puzzle. But really interesting company, and you expect those kind of companies to continue innovating. It's why they are who they are, and why they have such a strong value proposition.
Part of their DNA, eh?
That's it, man.
Well, that's a good finishing point to our big story. So maybe we can circle back to the first story, which was RBA rates, and we had a question, Jolie, from Carl with a K again, about so with all this talk about rates, what does it mean for us, the average mortgage haver, the average mortgage owner, between a fixed and a floating? Like, when should you start consider fixing? Should you fix a portion of your home loan? What's the go with it? Yeah,
well, if people listen to the podcast where we have Marty on from the loan room, he spoke about that, and I think that sort of stuff's information still rings true currently, because fixed rates are still the lower of the two rates. So you got fixed and variable. and fixed timelines. So you got fixed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years plus, I think. And then variable is what it is. It's variable, it's floating. So the fixed rates at the moment, because they're coming from a different source, they're at a lower rate at the moment. They're sort of down in the ones, the 1.99s, the 1.89s, maybe a little bit lower. And the variables you see sort of hovering around the mid twos, high for investment loans as well. So yeah, it's sort of about where do you feel and where do you see rates going in the short term. So when we talk short term, we sort of talk 12 months to 2 years, medium terms probably 2 to 5, and long terms 5 plus. And you can do portions. So you can do, a portion fixed if you feel like you're not going to do anything with that money and you can only pay down a certain portion. You might do 80% as an example and do 20% variable, which allows you to pay a little bit more off the variable, because fixed you generally can't repay more than a certain amount. They sort of cap you.
You can pay a little bit, but if you exceed it, they fine you.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, and fixed is a little bit, be mindful of getting out of fixed if rates, if rates sort of drop, and you're unlikely to have rates drop, but don't hold me to it. But
could go negative.
You can get stuck there with a fixed rate that's higher than the market, so it can be a payout figure if you need to get rid of it. So variable is a bit more flexible, I should say, in that regard. So yeah, there's some of the main points, and yeah, you're limited with your amount you can repay on the fixed, but if you feel like your ability to repay more anyway is going to be a certain amount, you've just got to keep that in mind when you are making that structure for you, because every structure will be different for the individual. And then offset accounts, some can run offsets over fixed, some can't, and sometimes it depends on the year of fixed rates you have. So there's a whole bunch of variables in there. So, speak to your professional, your broker, lender, advisor, and work out what's going to be most appropriate for your situation. Yeah. And then, you come to an outcome that's going to be favourable. You do your figures, and it's an interesting time at the moment. But with the talk of the RBA rate, they're sort of talking 2024. You've got a few years there potentially up your sleeve of lower rates.
Yeah, and if you have any further questions on this, Tankers, hit up Marty from the loan room, because this is his specialty. So, yeah, if you want to know what to do and you're looking for some advice, that's who you should see.
Yeah, absolutely, guys.
50-50s, we've got two great listener submitted ones. So
great question, by the way. It was Carl with a K, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Carl again, our long-time listener. So
keep the questions coming in, guys. We love them.
Bloody
great questions, and that's what the viewers and the listeners want to hear, is questions on your mind. So we'll do our best to get to them all and answer them on the pod. And short, succinct questions that people have on their minds is great, because we love answering them and people love hearing about them. So keep them coming.
Spot on, mate. So do you want to hit us with you've got a listener submitted 50-50 given to you, and I got one given to me. So do you want to do yours first? We'll do 2 for 1.
Yeah. So
50-50, either 50, or, gun to your head, debit or credit.
This one. This one's from our friend of the pod and listener, George. Georgie boy, shout out to you, mate. He texted me a couple of weeks back, actually. So I've just managed to get around to this one now. Apologies on the delay. Is when driving, one hand or two?
Oh, I typically do one hand regardless, but I also often have a coffee or a water next to me in the car, which is probably why I've developed this habit. What about you, Jolie? We
did actually delve into the reasons around our answers. So I was one hand, and generally on one hand anyway, I think. But yeah, food came into the equation. And then we also drilled into like when we were in our early 20s, and I was driving a sweet hotted up Magna manual. Shout out to the old Magna.
Yes.
That I actually found out from a funny story. I found out from a guy I go to gym with that it used to be his car, and he goes, "Oh, how many Ks would be on it now?" And I'm like, "Oh, it was only like 260,000." He goes, "No, it can't be, because it was on 290 when I sold it, so it'd have been wound back." So anyway, side note to the Mitsubishi RIP. I don't know where it is now, probably in a scrapyard. But
the Maggie,
that was a manual, and yeah, you had to concentrate. You're always rushing around as an early 20s, and you got your Subway in one hand, and you're trying to eat a 6-inch or a foot long, and you're trying to do the gears. So it was a full art form to drive in one-handed, Arnie.
Actually, now you mention it, like. You remember my Mitsubishi Magna, that shitty old wagon? That's also a manual, which is probably, again, why I only drive one-handed now. Because even though I drive an auto now, you used to shift in the gears, which,
It was a different dynamic when you're trying to balance the subway on your knee. You're trying to push the clutch in. You're trying to move the gears.
Yeah, mate. You hold your subway on the steering wheel hand, but you drive with your knees and you shift the gears.
Yeah, and I used to get them to wrap up the foot long into 2 6-inches, so you didn't juggle and lose one if they were on the one. That's how much we drilled into it. So you'd actually I'd get them wrapped up separately, so I could just do one at a time. The other one didn't fall off my lap.
That's forward thinking. I love that.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we do here at the Tank. We drill into specifics around reasoning why we choose what we choose to do. And the reason we do 50-50s is obviously for choice of investments, choice of markets. You've got all these choices, and then we talk life choices, because life choices is just as interesting.
That's exactly right. And my 50-50 comes from Crystal, and she has asked us, do we prefer to go camping or do we prefer to stay in like a motel? For a family holiday.
Yeah, I'm probably a motel guy, mate. I might be camping down the track, but I'm a motel guy. Just convenience and just ease for me. I much prefer it.
I think I'm also a motel guy when it comes to family, but I don't mind going camping with the dudes. So I'll have to go with motel though. I think that's just how it is for me. I feel like it's just especially with young kids. But hey, I'm not against camping if down the track the kids are interested and we want to organise it. But it's just a matter of that's what it is, mate. Trying to organise to do it. It's you got to get a lot of equipment and get it done. That's it, mate. Well, that's a wrap. That's a bloody good one. We're both in the crypto game now, so look out.
We're in. Arnie will keep you updated on his meme coin, and we'll keep you updated on the two that I got into, and we'll keep you guys along the journey of the roller coaster. And Arndog, what's coming up? We're going to do another taping if we can this week.
So we might, if we can get a chat going with I forget the bloke's name from the Sporting Globe. What's his name, Ollie?
So we've got Jimmy, but also Ryan Sinclair. So Ryan is the owner of Swan Slater Productions. So Ryan's a good friend of ours, and also a ripping Melbourne supporter. So another great reason to get him on. But more importantly than that, he runs an events program, and he's brought out some pretty good names over the years, and big names such as Muggsy Bogues, Dennis Rodman, Jake the Snake, I think, who's a wrestler. So
I used to love Jake the Snake.
Yeah, we're going to get Ryan on to chat, all things events, and, from a financial perspective, what it looks like, some of the things that worked really well for him, some things that he, encountered that were dramas, and then dealing with, celebrities like Dennis Rodman and how he worked the logistics of that too. So, pretty fascinating chat.
He's probably the number one Melbourne supporter. Like, I think he got honoured at the Foundation of Heroes dinner as being like an exceptional Melbourne supporter, because he's part of the cheer squad. He's got the iconic blonde hair as well.
Yeah, you would have seen him behind the goals. I don't know how he fits it all in, mate.
You see him on TV. Yeah, I love having a chat to him. He's a good dude. So
keep an eye for that pod. We'll get him on. We'll aim to do a recording of that maybe this week, and we'll be able to release. We'll try to release a couple for you guys over the coming week, just to make up for lost time.
Just to pay it back. And if you want to get Money in the Tank, you can find us at Money in the Tank on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And if you leave a like, a comment, or a subscribe on the video on YouTube, that helps the algorithm pump Jolie and I up. So
and get those questions on there too, guys. Thanks. Keep bringing them in. Great to chat to you as always, mate. And great. Thanks for listeners tuning in as always.
Yeah, good to speak to you, mate. I'll speak to you soon.
Money in the Tank. Peace out, crew.
Later.
Bye.